Hi, this is part 3 of the GAiA web portal. I'll be covering off the remaining bits with you, which is to cover off the system management section, um, the user management section, high availability and maintenance. So we'll start off with the system management section. We'll start off with the first tab, which is time. So you should synchronize system clocks for all security gateways, security management servers and cluster members. So that SIG trust does not fail. Cluster synchronization requires precise clock synchronization between members, and it's also good for smart event correlation using timestamps that must be synchronized. And also for general troubleshooting reporting, you should always synchronize the time. So you can set the time and date from here, or you can use an NTP server. You can also set the time zone. So you set the time zone from here. It's London, Europe for me. And you can also change the display format, but that's done in another section we'll be having a look at shortly. So SNMP. SNMP is used to send and receive management information to the network devices. So it's basically used for monitoring the device for any issues. So you can monitor this gateway and send the info to a management station. So you'd enable SNMP from here. Enable SNMP agent. You can use either version 1, version 2 or version 3, so you can specify that from here. Checkpoint supports SNMP version 1, version 2 and version 3, so it's recommended that a minimum you must change the default community string to something other than the public string. You should also use SNMP version 3 if your management station supports it. So this is because it provides strong authentication and privacy as compared to version 1 and 2, which don't. You can specify your SNMP location string in here. So this is something like test lab ground floor, for example. You can specify a contact string here. A contact maybe a department, for example, who is responsible for this device. And then you'd click on the apply. So you'd apply the above settings. Agent addresses. An agent address is specified is a specified IP address at which the SNMP agent listens and reacts to requests. By default, all gateway addresses are selected. I've only got the one physical interface and a loopback interface configured, but they'll all be selected, and then you just specify the ones which you want the agent addresses to listen on. So you can control which interfaces you want to listen on from here. So you'd only select the ones that probably are the ones that point to your management station. Most likely your internal interface that would be. Okay, so we've got version 1 and 2 settings. So you specify the read-only community string from here, which provides basic security protection, or you could also enable read and write access and specify a community string for this as well from this section here. Read and write access should only be enabled only if absolutely required, as this enables write access to the gateway, so you should only use this if absolutely required, and then you can apply this from here. V3 user-based security model. So with USM access to the SNMP service is controlled using user identities. So each user has a name and authentication passphrase which is used for identifying the user, and an optional privacy passphrase used for protecting the SNMP messages. So SNMP users are maintained separately from the system users, but to make it easier, you should create SNMP user accounts with the same name as system users. However, it's not really required, but it's just so it's easier for you to manage. So if we click add here, and you can put the username in, the security level, here, user permissions, read only, rewrite, and the passphrase, authentication passphrase, and a privacy passphrase here. And then that user is created here. Okay, so the next part is the enable traps. So managed devices use trap messages to report events to the network management station. So this is the kind of the main bit of the whole part of SNMP. So it's the relevant part to SNMP, which does the messages. So you can send the type of messages to the SNMP workstation, and you can specify which type of trap messages you'd like to send. So when some types of events occur, the platform sends a trap to the management station. And to have a look at the traps, if we click on set, you can see the type of traps you can send. So for example, fan failure. So if your fan fails, you can send that trap message to the SNMP management station. Or low disk space or power supply failure, for example. So you'd add these, move these to the right here, and then click save, and that's done. Yeah, so you can specify a trap user from here, and you could specify the polling frequency as well. So number of seconds, how many times it's polled. And finally, trap receiver settings. So you can add the management station from here. So you'd specify the IP address, the version of the management station, and the community string. So they're both speaking using the same community string for basic security requirements. Okay, let's move on to job scheduler. So you can use the web UI to access cron and schedule regular jobs. You can configure the jobs to run at the dates and times that you specify or at startup. So you can click on add here. And you can specify the job name, the command to run here, and you can specify the schedule here, as well as the time. So you can configure all that from here. You can also specify an email address here for notifications. And we'll have a look at email notifications next, actually, which is this tab here. So mail notifications, also known as mail relay, allow you to send email from the security gateway usually used for notifications. So specify mail server and the email user to send emails to here, and then click apply. Proxy, so if you want to use a upstream proxy server, you can enable that here. Specify the IP address and port. To enable it, specify the IP address, specify the port, click apply again. Messages, you can configure GAiA to show a banner message and a message of the day to users when they log in from both the web UI and CLISH. So you can do that here. Banner of the day is here, message of the day, and specify your message and click apply. Display format, so you can do the formatting for the time, the date, and IP version 4 can be adjusted here. So the time can be 24-hour clock as well as a 12-hour. You've got various formats for the dates, and you can do the IP version 4 using the dotted decimal or the CIDR notation /24, for example, from here. Okay, so let's move on to session. And you can specify the command line web UI session timeouts can be adjusted from here. So you can specify the inactivity timeout. I mean, mine's quite a big inactivity timeout as well for the command line and for the web, but that's because I'm running it in a test lab. Usually you'd have this to sort of 10-15 minutes at most, definitely in a sort of a production environment anyway. So let's move on to core dump. So you can enable core dump to have So you can have a look at the state of the system's working memory from here, and these are stored in this path here. Okay, so system configuration, you can enable IP version 6 support and the OS bit support from here. I believe if you turn these on, you may have to reboot your gateway as well. Let's just have a test. So you'd have to do that from this one. Don't know about this one. Yeah, so you'd have to reboot them for both. So let's move on to system login. So you can set up a remote log syslog server from here. So add a remote server, specify the IP address, the priority as well if you've got more than oh actually sorry, I was thinking it was for more than one syslog server, but it's actually priority for the messages themselves, how yeah, the level of the login entry. So you can specify the level of logging from here. Network access. So you can SSH to the gateway anyway, but if you want to use Telnet, which of course is not recommended, but you might be still using it because it may be encrypted over a VPN or something, or you just need it for some specific requirement, you can enable that from here. Certificate authority, so this just gives you information on the certificate authority which was installed when the system was first built. Finally, host access. So you can specify the host you allow access to GAiA from here. Click on add. You can specify that here. So I've got it as any IP addresses. You can specify a host as well, or even a network from here. Okay. So that's the system management section. Let's move on to user management from here. So the first section is to change password. So you can change the admin password from here, and it's really that's all it does. So just change the admin password. So let's move on to the users tab. You could add users from this section, and if we click on add, so you've got two actually default ones, so the admin user and the monitor user, which are both assigned to specific roles, which we'll have a look at next. So the admin role and the monitor role. So if we click add here, you can specify the login name, the password, you confirm the password, you can specify the real name, the home directory where the user lives in, the shell. So let's have a look at the shells. This shell, the clish, users allowed to use the full GAiA CLI clish. So this is the default option. Users can also run shell to enter the bash shell from here as well. Bin bash, CSH, SH, these shells as well as this one here, TCSH, are standard Linux shells. The CPU only shell, this one, users are allowed to log in only using SCP to transfer files to and from the system. So no other commands are allowed if you give user access to this shell. And finally, the no login shell, users are not allowed to basically log in. So you've got this tick box, users must change password next login, and it does exactly what it says. And access to access mechanism, so you can give them access to the web or the command line depending on which tick box is ticked here. And then you can specify the roles that the users should have, and these roles have certain features enabled for them, which we'll have a look at next. And you've got some more options here as well. If the account's locked, unlock it, reset the password. You can delete the account, or you can edit it, or you can add, which we've just looked at. So the roles themselves, you've got by default 2 roles, the admin role and the monitor role. You can see the admin role has 102 features enabled, the monitor role has 101 features enabled. The admin role also has 47 commands enabled. So if we click on add, you can give it a role name here, and you can specify the features you want to enable here. So you may want to click advanced via RRP. You may want to only give it the user or the role read-only access or read-write access, so you can choose them from here. So there's lots of features. If you go down here, you can see there's quite a lot. And then you've also got extended commands, which is extended commands provide access to abilities outside the domain of the command line, such as operating system or security gateway utilities. Additional extended commands can be defined by typing add commands. So you've got your commands here. You can enable them for this role from here. Okay, let's cancel that and let's move on to password policies. So password policies gives you the ability to specify the policies for passwords or the password complexity, etc. So you can specify the minimum password length. I've got 6 here. Disallow, I don't know how to pronounce this, but palindromes, I think. And it's a word that can be read, it's a word that can be read the same way in either direction. So, for example, Anna, using that as a password won't work. Password complexity, so you get your password complexities here, require 2 character types, so a number and a character, for example, or require 3 character types, number, character, special character. Let's go down and have a look at the other settings. So you've got your password history, check for password reuse, the history length, so your last 10 will be checked. So if you use the same one as any of your last 10, it won't let you do that. Mandatory password change, so password expiration, so the password may never expire. You can expire the password from here, or you can lock the user after so many days as well. Deny access to unused accounts, so if the account's unused, lock it. You've got that option here. Deny access after failed login attempts. After so many login attempts, you can lock the account as well. Okay, so let's move on to authentication servers. So you can authenticate GAiA using a radius server, which you can configure from here. So add radius server here, specify the priority, IP or host name here, and UDP port here, 1812, which is a standard one, and specify the shared secret. And you can also specify a timeout in seconds. So if there's no response after the timeout period, GAiA tries to connect to a different server. So the priority here, this is an integer between 0 and 999. The default is 0. So when there are 2 or more radius servers, GAiA connects to the server with the highest priority. The lower numbers have the higher priority, should I say. Also, GAiA supports the use of TACACS for authentication. So you can enable that as well. Here it is, so you can enable that from here. Click add, you can add the priority of the server, the shared secret, and the time in seconds of that as well from here. Okay, so let's move on to system groups. And this is, to be honest, not used that often. And the GAiA system groups functionality is equivalent to the Linux-based systems, and this function is retaining GAiA for advanced applications for retaining compatibility with Linux. I'm not really that familiar with it myself, but here's the members you can select. Give it a group name, group ID. As I said again, it's not really used that often. Finally, the GUI clients. So you can specify the location from where GUI clients can log in to the security management server from. So where you can log in from using your smart console or your smart dashboard application. So you can add that from here. You can specify a range, a network, or a particular host. Okay, so let's move on to the last three tabs, starting with high availability. So you can use Cluster XL for Checkpoint's high availability. Cluster XL is Checkpoint's proprietary high availability protocol, but Checkpoint also supports the industry standard VRRP, virtual router redundancy protocol as well. So you could use that if you're more familiar with VRRP. So VRRP is a cluster solution where two or more GAiA-based security gateways work together as one security gateway. So you can configure a VRRP cluster for high availability and or load sharing as well. And there's two VRRP types you could configure. One's called the simplified monitored circuit VRRP, which is basically contains all of the basic parameters and is applicable for most environments. When using this simple method, you can configure each virtual router as one unit. This method uses the monitored circuit VRRP only, so this is done from this tab here. Where advanced VRRP, which is the second method, you'd usually use this in an environment where it's necessary to monitor each interface individually. So you could use either method. So the simple method is the most deployed one, but in sort of enterprise environments they would rather monitor each interface individually. It's just more control and more it's more accurate to whether the actual gateway has failed or whether it's just one of the interfaces leading to the internet, for example, that has failed. So enterprises would prefer to use the advanced VRRP functionality. So you can't use both the simple and advanced types together, so you do one or the other. Okay, so let's have a look at the settings, and if we have a look at the first one, which is the cold start delay. So this is the delay period in seconds before a security gateway joins a virtual router, and the default is 1. Disable all virtual routers, so select this option to disable all virtual routers defined on this gateway system. So by default all virtual routers are enabled. Monitor firewall state, so select this option to let VRRP to monitor the security gateway and automatically take appropriate action. So it's recommended that this is enabled. So let's have a look at the virtual routers, and let's click on the add button here. So virtual router ID, so specify an ID for this virtual router, so you can specify between 1 and 255, the priority, enter the priority value for this gateway between 1 and 254. The security gateway with the highest available priority becomes the new master. The hello interval, so select the number of seconds after which the master sends its VRRP advertisements, so the range is between 1 and 255 seconds, and the default is 1. Priority delta, enter the value to subtract from the priority to create an effective priority when an interface fails, so the range is between 1 and 254. So what this is when if an interface fails on the backup, the value of the priority delta is subtracted from its priority. This gives a higher effective priority to another security gateway member, which means that member will become active if the priority is higher on that member. Okay, so let's move to preempt mode. And you'd want to enable preempt mode if you want the router with the higher priority to take over as master again when it has recovered. So if this is not selected, then the slave router, which was the backup and is now the master, will remain the master unless it had failed. It fails. Okay, so auto deactivation. So if you keep it clear, the auto deactivation tick box here, a virtual router with the lowest priority available can become master if no other security gateway exists on the network. If it's enabled, it will not become the master even if there are no other gateways. Authentication. You can authenticate via RRP using simple password authentication from here. And finally, backup address, which is the virtual IP address for this virtual router, which can be added from here. So you'd specify the IP address here and the virtual map mode, so you could use the 4 options here. So you could use VRP, so which basically sets the virtual MAC to use the standard VRP protocol. It is automatically set to the same value in all security gateways in the virtual router, and this is the default setting. So the virtual map mode, by the way, is just a virtual MAC address it assigns to the VRP protocol. So interface, this sets the virtual MAC to the local interface MAC address. Static, manually set the virtual MAC address, so you could enter the VMAC address in the applicable field. Extended, so GAiA dynamically calculates and adds 3 bytes to the interface MAC address to generate a more random address when this option is specified. Let's have a look at the advanced VRP. So this is like VRP but with more functionality to control the monitored interfaces. So if we click and add here, you can see you've got the monitored interface option here. Won't let me click it. I think that's because I've got to just put a value in here, or specify an interface actually from here, and then you could control this section here, and you can add the monitor interfaces from here. So that's pretty much it from this section. You've probably got more options in here as well. Okay, so let's move on to, let's skip the IP version 6 portion of VRP and let's move on to cluster tab. And this really is to make a machine the primary member of a cluster. So you could specify this tab here, so you can control who's the primary member of a cluster. You can click that to force it basically, and you can also remove peers from a cluster by clicking this tab here, which will remove the peer from a cluster if you're doing some sort of maintenance troubleshooting or you're doing something fancy with the gateways. Okay, so I think we've covered high availability. Let's move on to maintenance. So if we click on the license tab, so you can enter the license data manually, or you can paste the license. If we click on new here, you could specify, you can paste the license here, or you can specify the details here as well. Yeah, so this is basically adding a license to the system. Upgrading packages. So you can upgrade from here, although it's better to do it in CLI because you get to see more stages of the upgrade completion, so it gives you a bit better feedback. That said, there's been a lot of improvement from the web UI as well with feedback. So if you click upload, and you can browse the package to upload it to the gateway. Once it's uploaded, then you can actually upgrade the package. Image management. So you can make a new image or a snapshot of the system, and you can revert to the image at a later time. So you can also revert to another image or delete an image with these options here. So you can import, export, delete, or revert. So you've got some good functionality here for image management, and the gateway has to be the exact same model, version, hotfix, etc. to revert an image to that particular gateway from where the image was originally taken from. So let's go to system backup. You can add a backup and specify where to backup to. So you've got the backup types. You can back up to this appliance or these servers, the TFTP server, SCP server, or FTP server. You can also view logs from here. Let's just click it to see what appears. So nothing, because there's nothing being done on this gateway. So you can schedule a backup. So add schedule backups, and again you could specify the where you'd want to back up to, and you can specify the backup schedule from here. Okay, so let's cancel that. Let's move to download Smart Console. So yeah, you can download the Smart Console directly from the gateway here, or you can do that from the home page as well. Management Administrator, so let's move on to this tab. You can change the password for the CP checkpoint Smart Console password from here. So this is not GAiA, this is checkpoint password. And you've got the option to shut down. So you've got the option to halt the system or reboot the system from here as well. So finally, let's move on to the last section, which is software updates. So status and actions. So GAiA automatically locates and shows the available software updates packages for Checkpoint products and the GAiA OS. So the update packages are for minor releases and hotfixes. Only packages that are applicable to the GAiA computer are shown. So you can download packages from here. It shows you the packages here. Size of the package, the type of package. Not sure what that says there. Available from. I think we can kind of do that. Yep. So when it's available from, so the date. Downloaded on, so it probably gives you the gateway. Installed on, what gateway it's installed on. So yeah, so you can download, install, and uninstall hotfix updates from here. You could also install a private package near the bottom as well. Here, so add a private package. You click and add. The add button's not working for me for some reason, but you can click and add anyway from here. Which is basically a hotfix which you retrieve from Checkpoint, usually to resolve a specific problem. So private packages are not available to the public. You can't retrieve a private package from the Checkpoint Support Center. It's a private hotfix for a particular problem you have and Checkpoint have created for you from here. So let's move on to policy. So within software deployment policy, you can choose to download updates manually or on a schedule, or even automatic. So manually, scheduled, or automatic. I think the automatic option is whenever the updates are available, it will download them basically. Usually manual is used, and manual is the default. With not as so much with downloads, but with installations, you know, everyone wants to be very controlled about it, so they want to, you know, install an upgrade or a hotfix, etc., when they are sort of ready within the change window. So it's very rarely used. The other options, scheduled and automatic. So updates installation, so you can do that manually scheduled and automatic grayed out for this one. I'm not sure why. You can also send download and installation data of software updates to Checkpoint. So that's just for Checkpoint to collect statistics about downloads and install packages. And you can also do self-tests to perform when the after the installation has occurred. So you could do start Checkpoint processes. That's one way of testing it. The installation was successful. Or install a policy, or network link is up, so check if a network link is up. So if one of these fail, for example, you can do auto rollback upon failure by clicking this checkbox here. Now let's move on to the last tab, which is the software update notification tab. So here you could specify the email addresses, the email address to send notifications to about the update. So new available packages, or download status, or install status. So you could send any of these to the specified email address from here. Okay, that's it from me. From the perspective of the GAiA web portal. So my next videos hopefully will be on the Checkpoint console. It will most likely be the smart dashboard, and we will have a look at the UTM functionality, or we will even have a look at the new version, which is the R76, and have a look at the differences, how it's changed from R75, so the GUI interface in particular. So I'd like to thank you for watching. Thank you.